Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's meetings. This is a meeting of the Governance Committee of the University of Louisville Board of Trustees. I will now call the roll. Scott Brinkman here. Mary Nixon.
Here.
Diane Porter.
Wait a minute. Here. Sorry.
Jim Rogers.
Here.
David Schultz.
Here.
Thank you. Having determined a quorum present, I would like to call this meeting to order. One reminder, please remember to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. The first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the September 24, 2020 meeting of the committee. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Jim Rogers approved. Is there made the motion? Is there a second? I think Diane Porter or Mary Nixon has seconded the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstention? The motion carries and the minutes stand approved. Our next item of business is the approval of a revision to the board's bylaws. It was brought to the committee's attention that there was a discrepancy between the board's bylaws and its spending policy. As currently written, section 2.9.B.1 of the bylaws require the Executive and Compensation Committee to consider and recommend to the Board of Trustees the compensation of the President, Vice President, and Deans, a holdover from when the bylaws were first revised by this board in 2017. Since that time, the board has instituted and revised its spending policy, which requires board approval only for the compensation of the president and executive vice presidents. After consultation with council, it was decided that the simplest way to make both documents consistent with each other is to amend the bylaws, specifically section 2.9.B.1 regarding the executive and compensation committee. The proposed amendment to the bylaws is in the board packet. Are there any questions from the committee? Not hearing any questions, may I have a motion to approve the revision to the bylaws as described?
So moved.
Mary Nixon has made the motion. Is there a second to the motion?
Second, Diane Porter.
Diane Porter, second. Any discussion? All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposition? Abstentions? The motion carries. This item will be added to the January 21, 2021 Board of Trustees meeting agenda for a roll call vote. Our next item of business is an information item to consider a new administrative procurement regulation. The red line draft is in the board packet. I want to make sure that every member of the Board of Trustees has had an opportunity to review and to weigh in on this regulation, as it is very, very important. A lot of work has gone into it with Sandra Russell, our General Counsel, Tom, and others. And so what I'm asking is if every member of the board would review the regulation that's in the board packet, and if you could submit final comments to Sandra Russell with a copy to Tom Hoy by the close of business next Wednesday, it would be very much appreciated. We do want to bring closure on this matter. It's been reviewed and it's been a matter of discussion and a lot of hard work for several months now. And so it really is incumbent upon us to bring closure to this. And if everyone would cooperate and get final comments to it by close of business next Wednesday, we certainly should be in a position to have this before the committee at the next committee meeting and for consideration and hopefully approval. So this item at this time requires no action of the committee, and hopefully we'll get final comments, resolution of it, and considered for approval at the January 21 Board of Trustees meeting. Our next item of business is also an information item, and that's to consider the revised memorandum of understanding between the university and the University of Louisville Foundation. Again, a lot of work has gone into the MOU, and we are at a point where there's one last point that needs to be resolved. I know a lot of work, including by our board chair, went into trying to reach resolution prior to this meeting. Unfortunately, that did not happen, but we're very hopeful that we can get resolution of this final point, hopefully in the next several days. And again, this item does not require any action at this time, but hopefully we'll resolve this one last issue, and we will consider and have the MOU on the agenda for approval at the January 2021 Board of Trustees meeting. Those are the items before this committee at this time. Having no other business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting of the committee?
So moved.
Second.
Second, motion made by Mary, seconded by Jim Rogers. Mary Nixon, seconded by Jim Rogers. Is there, excuse me, all in favor, please signify aye.
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Scott. We have just 1 minute, less than 1 minute remaining before we can begin the Human Resources Committee meeting. Randy, we'll let you know when we are ready to begin. Is that okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Hi, Al. Thanks for joining. I see you.
Yes, indeed.
All right, Randy, it is 1:10. You have a quorum, and you may begin.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is the scheduled meeting of the Human Resource Committee of the Board of Trustees. I will now call the roll. Randy Bufford, obviously here. Al Cornish.
Here.
Sandra Frazier.
Here.
Jim Rogers.
Here.
John Smith.
Here.
Thank you, everyone. Having determined a quorum is present, I would like to call this meeting to order. With the first item of business is the review and approval of the minutes of the September 24th, 2020 meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Having hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? None heard. The motion carries and the minutes stand approved. We're next excited on our next item of business is an informational update that is being presented to the committee from Vice President for Human Resources, Mary Elizabeth Miles. Mary Elizabeth, would you continue?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time. We're just going to go through a quick slide deck this afternoon and just talk about what is going on in human resources and give you a bit of a forecast of what we can look forward to in 2021. I'm going to get started with just sharing with you, if you recall during our last meeting, we started talking about the Cardinal experience. I told you that I would give you a temperature check every time that we met. And so I just wanted to let you all know the top 3 things that we are working on and certainly hearing from our employees. Number 1 being our retirement contributions. There's lots of questions about whether or not our contributions will go back to where they were pre-COVID. And as you all know, and you will hear more later, we certainly have to make some decisions based on our financial status to be able to determine what is going to happen. And so we have notified our team, our collective team and community, that those decisions will be made from January to March of next year, and then we will be back to the community to let them know what's happening. The second thing that is on everyone's mind is remote work. As you all know, that it has been the university's position that certainly the health and welfare of our team is most important. And so in every opportunity that we've had to create work in remote settings, we have done so. And so we have received several questions about how long that was going to last based on two things. One, the surge that we've seen in our state overall, based on our governor's reports. And then secondly, now hearing that there may be some vaccinations on the way. And so the way that we have managed those situations is as much as we can in real time. Our Office of Communications and Marketing has shared information with our community as quickly as we can confirm the information is correct. And that has certainly been our mode throughout the entire time that we've been in COVID. Finally, I have something fun to share. Earlier this year, Neely and her cabinet made the decision that our employees would enjoy a 2-week break during winter break. So that means starting on the 18th, which will be our last day of work, we will be out of the office until the new year. And so I will tell you that in formal and informal conversations, our employees this year more than ever are just really excited that Neely not only made that commitment for this year, but she also made the commitment for next year. So if there are no questions, we're going to talk a little bit about what we have done during COVID as far as taking care of our employees. So,
Mary
yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
this is Al Cornish. I was just trying to gauge what percentage of employees do we have that are working remotely?
I'm going to I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm going to say that at least 70% of our employees are working remotely.
All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome. So as far as what we have done, I'm not going to read all these things to you, and I know that Jake has sent this to you beforehand, but I was just going to highlight a couple of things that we've done to be a community of care during COVID. As it relates to our healthcare benefits, there were several things that were mandated by the state. But I want you to know that with Neely and her leadership, many times we found that we were actually on the front end of those things, and where we had options where we could engage or choose not to, we did. And so you will see that just as an example, there was something that had to do with I believe it was the co-pays and co-insurance. We actually extended our waivers of the deductibles and any cost share that had to do that. We pushed that out to December, when I believe the date for that expiration was probably about 3 or 4 months ago. So just wanted to highlight that we certainly have tried to be as customer and employee friendly as we could. With regards to our communications and support, one of the things I'm really proud of is when we had to have furloughs over the summer. One thing that we learned very quickly, and I'm sure you all saw this in the news, is that the unemployment office was overwhelmed, and there were many pieces to their process, which also included a 20 or 30-year-old computer system that caused a lot of grief for our employees. So we actually created our own satellite unemployment office here and tried to be a resource to our employees in real time as much as we could, because we understood that certainly, having those barriers between them and a paycheck certainly had an impact on them. So I will say that I'm really proud that there was a lot of hard work and a lot of energy and care for our community that happened there. In the spirit of keeping our employees connected during this time, we had several learning cafes that gave our employees opportunities to come together around a topic that was relevant at the time, or around topics that would be helpful for them during this transition. And so that was anything from how to care for children when you're working from home, or when we've had many discussions about race and what our culture looks like now in this time and where we're headed. And so just wanted to say that what we found is that the participation was great, and people just really took this opportunity to find ways to connect with people when they felt, otherwise isolated. And we are going to go to the next slide and just talk a little bit about our campus health. I will tell you that I'm really proud to say that U of L has had their own contact tracing employees here. So we have been ahead of the curve and not had to wait on the health department to do that contact tracing. And so certainly we've been able to get people moving in the right direction much quicker because we have that control on campus. And as you can see, there are other pieces there, but we also do free flu shots, which we do every year, but we know that there is an emphasis on that this year, and we were able to do that in tandem with the on-campus testing that we did for COVID. So, hats off to our campus community for that. Finally, we have employee share program. Where we have donations from kind people outside of our organization as well as our employees, which are dollars that when they have financial hardships, we are able to give them money up to $1,000 to take care of those bills or payments that they need to make that they would otherwise not be able to make. So just again, I didn't want to go over all of them, but just wanted to let you know that there has been a lot of thought that we've put into the community of care for our employees, and we continue to look ways for finding ways to combat or to provide some relief to our employees, because we know that they're tired and we know that they've been working hard, and we know that they have, not in addition to just figuring out what work looks like, but just dealing with COVID from a home perspective. So moving forward, I just wanted to share a couple of things that we've done. I'm not going to read these to you, but we did purposely pick out a few to share. But our OCM office opened up lines of communication so that our employees could do peer shout outs to each other during COVID. And as you will see, and there's one more slide that we have next, that it was just amazing how much people reached across all of campus to just say thank you. Thank you for all the things that everyone is doing, no matter how small or how quiet somebody might have been in their contribution. We made sure that we were taking care of each other. And so one of the things that OCM has shared with me is that moving forward, we had such a great turnout with regards to this that we realized we don't need to just do this for COVID. We need to do it all the time. And so they are actually putting into their template for our daily newsletter that we all receive, a place where you can do shout outs so that we can have those 365 days a year. So that's exciting. And so we are now going to move to just a few updates that I'm going to leave with you. We talked about the compensation and total reward study the last time we were together. And I just wanted to share with you that our committee has been confirmed, that we have our website has been launched. And the purpose of the website is to just keep all of our constituents informed of where we are in the process. We have received our RFPs, and those will be, the committee will be looking at those and making some decisions in early 2021 as to who the vendor will be that will help us through this journey. And I also want to mention that HR is supporting you as the Board of Trustees with our presidential compensation search. I know that it was important to you all that the presidential compensation was in line with our strategic plan, that it certainly honored the employment contract that we have in place with our president, and most of all, that it aligned with the comp philosophy that we are going to have for the entire university. So I just wanted to let you know that we are moving in the right direction, and we will be looking for a vendor to help us move forward with that process as well. The Benefits Administration Committee, we talked a lot about that last month. I just want to let you know that we did receive bids back from the RFP for our investment advisor. We have narrowed those down to 2 candidates, and we are waiting to schedule meetings with each of those respondents to see which is going to be the best fit for the university. So I will keep you posted on that. Next, I will talk to you about our new ERP system, which I'm so excited about. First, I want to say thank you to my dear colleague and all our partners in ITS under Ray Hahn's leadership. They have done an excellent job of securing a new vendor for us. We've just signed a contract with Workday. We are now working with Ray Hahn and his team to select the implementation partner. And I will just tell you, up until this point, Rayon and his team have done all the heavy lifting to get us here. And I will tell you that it's going to be certainly, it's going to take us to a whole new level of the way that we can care for our employees at the university and ultimately make this a better experience for our students. So last but not least, I just wanted to give you all an idea. I know that our strategic plan has already been the update, the 1-year update is out there, so I'm certainly not going to rehash that for you. But I do want to just on a very high level share with you the responsibilities that HR has in the strategic plan, and then just give you an idea of what our heavy lifting looks like for 2021. So the first thing that I want to say is that when you think about that plan and what is it really trying to say, from an HR perspective, we want to be an employer of choice. And we want to be a place where people want to be here and it is a great place to work. And so the initiatives that we have with regards to that are around recruiting and retention. Certainly we have an emphasis on providing additional resources and education around diverse hiring. Career ladders, we talked about that as one of the pain points that we had when we did our Cardinal experience the last time we met. It is a part of our strategic plan, and it is certainly something that we are working on and believe in. Promoting a work-life balance, wow, if we haven't got a crash course in that over this time, I tell you, if it wasn't important then, it certainly is more than important now. Just for an example, we're looking at our employees on 3rd shift. We're looking at making sure that we have enough lactation rooms. We're making sure that we have places where people can pray. It's a wide range of things that we have to partner with different departments with, like our friends in physical plant and others. It's not just the policy reviews, but certainly that's a part of it. And so where I want to leave you is this: the heavy lifting that HR is going to be responsible for in 2020 are 2 of the bullets that I've already described to you. That's going to be our compensation study and total reward study, as well as our implementing the ERP system. That comp study is going to take it's going to take resources from human resources to work with whoever our vendor is to make sure that they have everything that they need so that we can have a complete study that gives us not only where we fit in the market, but also so that it can help us define what are the benchmarks for the University of Louisville. What is our comp philosophy here? And then we're going to look at again, I said it will talk to us about where we sit in the market, but also we will for the first time in a long time, be able to look at where we have gender gaps and also any kind of pay gaps that we have around race. So it's going to be an exciting time for us to be able to have all that information and then build from that information a plan moving forward so that we can be where we want to be and be that employer of choice. And finally, with the ERP system, what I want to say is the heavy lifting now is going to be shifted to HR. We actually, in order to do this process correctly, we have to shift some of our full-time staff with the chosen vendor so that we can do the implementation appropriately, which means we will have to backfill with resources that we have already available in HR and temporary employees so that the day-to-day work will get done. So that was a lot for updates. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mary Elizabeth. Do any of the members of the committee have some questions for what was a very well done and comprehensive update for us?
Thank you.
Yeah, that was going to be my comment, Randall, is that was a very comprehensive report and thus no questions. Good job.
Well, thank you, everybody. Before I ask for a close of the business, I would like to say that once again in this area, under Neely's leadership, along with the entire university community, I think we're getting the people thing moving in the right way. And for us to serve our constituents, who are our customers, our students, and of course our community at large, in the way that we all want to have happen, we've got to have a great team. And the more I learn in my new role as the HR chair here about the ongoing initiatives and investments that are being made in the people side of our university, it makes me something that I'm very proud of. And I'm very much pleased with Mary Elizabeth's leadership and working in this way. And I'm also learning lots of new things about how universities work a little bit different than businesses. And this is a good thing for me to learn in my later years. So having said that, if there's no other questions or commentary to come before the committee, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you very much, Raymond. The next committee meeting is ready to begin, and you do have a quorum if you'd like to start.
Okay. First of all, good afternoon to everyone. And I'd like to welcome and thank you for joining this virtual meeting of the Academic and Student Affairs Committee of the Board of Trustees. I will now call the roll. Raymond Burse, of course, here. Sabrina Collins.
Here.
Sandra Frazier.
Here.
Diane Porter.
Here.
David Schultz.
Here.
Having determined a quorum present, I would like to call this meeting to order. Our first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the September 24th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion from a committee member to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Diane Porter.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstention? The motion carries. Our next item of business is the approval of the 2020 Trustees Award. I'm happy to announce that the committee received 14 nominations and after thorough review has reached consensus on the winner. Would any of the committee members have to make any comments about the nominations that we received or anything before I go ahead to say who the winner is?
I would like to speak up just to the overall quality of all of the applicants. I'm very impressed with my colleagues at the university and the diversity of things that they are doing and how much they're helping the students. It was a very hard decision to come to one single person.
And I concur with that, a very tough process, and we went through about 3 steps to get to a winner. With that having been said, may I have a motion to approve Dr. Catherine Fossil as the 2020 Trustee Awards winner?
So moved, David Schultz.
Seconded.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstention? The motion carries. I'm pleased to announce that Dr. Fossil will be present at the Executive and Compensation Committee this afternoon so that we may officially recognize her following the approval of the consent agenda. Our next item of business is the approval of the naming of the to-be constructed new dormitory in the southeast quarter of Belknap campus. As you may recall, in October, the board approved the financing of the construction of a new dorm to house graduate students in the sports administration program, as well as student athletes on the men's and women's basketball and lacrosse team. Also in October, L&N Federal Credit Union executed a $2.5 million gift to the Cardinal Athletic Fund in exchange for the opportunity to lend its support to the legacy of U of L athletics through naming a facility on behalf of former head men's basketball coach Denny Crum. The president therefore recommends the board approve the naming of the new dorm as Denny Crum Hall, made possible by L&N Federal Credit Union. The recommendation has been approved by the university-wide Committee on Awards and Designations. Are there any questions for any member? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the naming of the new dormitory as described?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstention? Motion carries. Our next item of business is an informational update regarding the University Quality Enhancement Plan, or what we commonly call the QEP. You may recall that I requested Provost Boehm and her colleagues make a fulsome presentation regarding the QEP. And with that, I'll ask Dr. Boehm to introduce her team who will make the presentation. You're muted, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I'm happy to say that we have the same folks who were here the last time. Patty Payette, who oversees the Quality Enhancement Plan. Beth Willey, who is a faculty member who works with her and also an associate provost. And then Gail Rhodes, who is the director of the Delphi Center, which initiated the process. So Patty, can you go ahead and start us off?
Yes, happy to. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Okay, Jake's got my slides, so we'll take a look at those. I'd like to add that we also have Il Barrow, our assessment and data manager here, who will help if there's questions about some of the data and findings that I'll be presenting. So today, thank you very much for the opportunity to come back to give you some more information about our QEP Find Your Fit. I would like to, in the next just 10 minutes, just review and remind you of what our QEP is all about. Talk a bit more about how we're measuring the impact of this project on students, a bit more about some of the findings, including student demographics, and how we're adapting this project with COVID realities, and how we're thinking about the future of Find Your Fit. Next slide. So as a reminder, our QEP is part of our reaffirmation commitment to SACS. And SACS asks each institution when they go up for reaffirmation to create a 5-year innovative project related to student learning called a Quality Enhancement Plan, or QEP. Here at U of L, our QEP is called Find Your Fit, and it focuses on the design, implementation, and assessment of a 3-credit small seminar called ECPY 302, Personal and Academic Inquiry. ECPY is the acronym for the department that hosts the seminar, the Department of Counseling and Human Development. Each section of this course is taught by an instructional team made up of a lead faculty member, an advisor, and a librarian. After we submitted our proposal to SACS in 2017, they were so impressed with our proposal and our thoughtful assessment plan that they use our QEP proposal as an exemplary QEP proposal so that other schools in the SACS region can learn from it. Next slide. The students that we target for this particular project are what we call our undergraduate exploratory students. These are students who are undecided in a major, or they could be pre-unit students. They have not yet become eligible for the major of their choice. Additionally, we've actually found that there's some other students who benefit from this project, and those are students that are rethinking their major and they're in transition from one major to another, and they're stuck and need support in figuring out their direction. This is a small seminar course which is typically taught face-to-face. We modified starting in spring, and we went online after COVID hit in March. And then this fall, we offered three hybrid delivery versions of the seminar. And you see a photo here from this fall, including a quote from one of the students who took the course this fall. Next slide. So as a review, these are our 4 learning outcomes. These represent the kind of behaviors that are part of what student success looks like at U of L. Essentially, Find Your Fit is an intervention for a particular subset of our students who we know need support in all 4 of these areas to be successful. So the 4 focus on valuable thinking and independent inquiry skills, a sense of belongingness in college and on campus, key inquiry and informed decision-making abilities, and self-regulation skills so they can identify problems in their thinking and or their study skills. This project allows us to not only enhance these 4 areas for these students, but to measure the impact as we go. Next slide. So I'd like to share some of our data and findings, as I said. So I'm going to share from each of the tiers of the assessment of the project, the way it's structured. So these 3 tiers involve Tier 1, which allows us to assess student learning outcomes. Tier 2, which allows us to assess the impact of this unique seminar and the folks who are involved with teaching it. It also allows us to examine and assess the impact of the program on student success at the institutional level. So let's start by looking at our findings at that first level on student assessment. Next slide. So based on data that we've collected between spring of 2018, when the project began, and spring of 2020, we look at both direct measures, such as the student writing assignments, and we look at indirect measures. These are research-based surveys that we've adapted for this project. And when we look at all of that, our data show the following promising trends in student learning. So what we're seeing is a significant increase in students' decision status regarding their major and career and their ability to make informed decisions for themselves. We also see a significant increase in their information literacy skills and their ability to get and use information to inform personal and academic decisions. We see an increase in their awareness of the skills and behaviors they have or they need to adjust to achieve academic goals. And we see an increase in their sense of academic and personal belonging in college and in our community. Next slide. So I'd like to share some information from you from Tier 2 assessment. This is when we're looking at assessment of the project itself, the impact of the innovative course structure. On the left, you see themes that we've gathered from the past 5 semesters from those who have served on the instructional teams. That's the faculty, the librarian, and the advisor. Reported benefits include things such as the relationships they develop with students, with colleagues, and the new skills and knowledge they gain to help support student success. On the right, you see the rich data we've gathered from students about across the semesters. Benefits include the individualized support they get from the diverse instructional teams, the connections they're making to community and peers, as well as the discoveries they're making about themselves and the academic inquiry process. We circle back and we share this data every single semester with those who are teaching, as well as those who are going to be teaching the course in the future. We have a continuous data loop throughout every semester of the project. Next slide. So let's look at Tier 3. This bar chart shows some preliminary analysis of the longitudinal impact of Find Your Fit, which feeds into that bigger picture of the impact at the institution. Looking at our first spring 2018 cohort of students, it's represented in green here, we see that 2 years after taking the seminar, 75% of these students are persisting at U of L versus our comparison group of students represented in blue who did not take the seminar, 55% who are persisting 2 years out. Preliminary analysis of all of our FYF cohorts to date show a similar trend after 1 semester and after 1 year. We'll be able to update the analysis as more cohorts reach the year and a half to 2 year from their enrollment in the course. Additionally, we're actively tracking each FYF cohort, integrating institutional data each semester, such as their academic progression, noting things such as change of major and completion of degree. Next slide. So thinking and sharing information about demographics. Who has participated in Find Your Fit to date? This slide provides select institutional and demographic data about our students participating in the project, including fall 2020. On the left is a pie chart that provides an overview of student participation by academic level. Note that 86% of our enrollment to date is made up of our students in their first year, often their second semester or late in their first year, or their second year. That is our target population. On the right hand, you see our FYF population broken down by ethnicity and gender. We've provided the same breakdown of the fall 2019 undergraduate population as a comparison point. The fall 2019 university data originated from Institutional Research and Planning and is the latest official data available to the public. As you can see, the Find Your Fit project is serving a representative sample of the undergraduate population as it relates to ethnicity. The project is actually attracting a slightly higher percentage of students who identify as Black, African American, Hispanic of any race, and 2 or more races. To date, the project has and continues to attract a higher percentage of female students in comparison to the university undergraduate population. Next slide. How have priority FYF students persisted? Priority students at U of L are students identified as underrepresented, underfinanced, and/or underprepared. The table on the left shows the number and percentage of Find Your Fit students who fall under one or more of the priority student groups. A snapshot of 2018-19 Find Your Fit cohort, a snapshot of 2018-19 cohort of priority students shows that students in these groups are persisting at the same rate as the entire 1920 Find Your Fit cohort. In other words, at this time, we're seeing no difference in how priority FYF students are progressing in relation to the entire 1920 cohort. Additionally, preliminary analysis also shows no statistical differences in student gains between the priority Find Your Fit students in comparison to the FYF cohort as a whole. As of right now, we are confident in stating that the FYF intervention is showing no diminishing impact on students based on differing priority student groups. Next slide. Since March, we've faced the following challenges with the seminar, including making sure we're keeping students engaged in person and in online instruction, supporting students to successfully finish the seminar despite personal challenges related to COVID, maintaining robust enrollment in the seminar. We had just reached, prior to COVID, our ability to fill all the sections of the course, and now we are finding ourselves struggling to enroll fully each section and working on a lot of outreach to get the right students who need this course into the course. Changing our delivery formats of the seminar appear to be one of the ways that we are reaching students where they are and listening to what students need. So next slide. We're going to be offering in the spring our first fully online version of the course. As you can see, we've got 3 seminar sections, each one with a different delivery mode. We would welcome you to refer students who you might know might benefit from this seminar. We often register students right up until the first week of classes in this course. Next slide. I want to wrap up by talking about looking ahead. We're exploring and trying out iterations of the seminar so that we can look at the long-term sustainability of offering this seminar, which has quite a bit of support for students. We are starting to begin envisioning what the course would look like after we report out to SACS in 2022, 2023. Amy Hershey from ECPY and I will be co-chairing the QEP Impact Report as we engage our campus stakeholders in putting together the report for SACS on this project. So with that, I will be happy to take questions.
Patty, you have 2 questions in the chat. One is about the total number of students. Dr. Burris asked if it's 264 or a multiple of that, given that we've had more than 1 year, 1 cohort. I think it's 264 total, is that right?
Right, that is right, that is correct.
Because the classes are very small and they started
Yes.
with 1 or 2 classes. And then also David Schultz asks about how each cohort is selected.
Great question. So the primary way that we envisioned and that has come to pass that students get funneled and advised into the course is most often through their academic advisor. So the academic advisor is often that person who's having the conversation with the student, can hear where the student is, and can recommend, you know, I really think you should take this course. And so we often find that the way that students get identified is through the advisor. Now, students can also register on their own. We sometimes have students who do that or get referred by a faculty member. We also do a lot of marketing in helping students self-identify. Am I struggling with my major choice? This course is for you. But the primary way right now is when advisors identify those students.
We've also had some parents who encourage their children to take the course. So.
Yes, we have. And we also market through the parent newsletter.
So Patty, my question also kind of deals with your graph of the blue and the green bars. And it might be greater strength to it if these were truly a randomized population rather than selected cohorts. I'm wondering
that we're comparing these students to?
Because one is a selected cohort and one is a random cohort, is that correct?
Well, let me, actually, Il, would you like to take that question? About our comparison group?
Yes, the comparison group is a randomized selection of students who follow or have fulfill the same conditions. We were trying to approach this project with a what they call a pseudo-experimental approach, where both groups would be randomized, but we couldn't work that out. So we really thought that focusing on students who said they were going to leave the university otherwise, not knowing what they're wanting to do, we hedged our bet on focusing on those students who had expressed those kinds of statements.
Thank you.
Let me say that at least preliminarily, what is taking place is being very impactful, and it's really good to see. One of the things that were also discussed at the inception of this QEP was what we were going to do with what we learned to be applicable to the rest of the university and across the university. I know you're still early, but are there things that we've learned that we're already sharing or being able to put in place to implement to be impactful to a much broader population?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, we had just finished or just had almost completely gotten through a series of presentations that we had done to the faculty assemblies at every school and college before COVID hit. And part of what we did in those updates is we shared with our faculty colleagues some of the information that we shared with you about what we're finding. And we also shared some of our sort of takeaways around student success. And we are envisioning, and we had just completed a document where we started to sort of pull out, here are some of our best practices around mentoring, around these other advising, around these other pieces. And so I'm glad you asked that question. That will need to be a central piece of the conversation over the next couple of years as we're working on our impact report.
Randy?
Absolutely. The efficacy is being proven. I have a similar comment. Is there anything we should be doing data-wise as a university to bring people to your front doorstep rather than you having to market with a requirement to enroll? And before everybody reacts, requirements are tricky, but a fair number of our students' education is being paid for by the university. And those are investments the university is making in them. So putting requirements around those people that are receiving other than 100% private funding, I don't think in my mind is that tricky, because the goal here is the same for both parties. We want your success and our investment to go well. And so it's probably against all kinds of college rules. We'd easily pass this in a business setting. But again, it'd be something that I would pick out to look to, because clearly we've heard from you twice in my short tenure, and your report has been eminently positive and effective. And no doubt that the reports you delivered pre-pandemic were like that to the groups you spoke to. But again, I'm thinking more, can we use the metrics of whatever we capture around the student experience? Well, I'm sure there's more than just grade scoring that we capture around that to drive people to your front door, and then potentially make continued funding and financial support or something a part of, this process, because obviously when they do engage, it works.
You hit on something we've been talking about and struggling with almost actually even before the project started, about this whole question about how do we get the right students into this seminar who we know would really benefit. And obviously making it a requirement has, for all the reasons that you named, been a sticky wicket. Beth, do you want to speak to that?
Well, I think that one of the issues, it's an expensive course to deliver because it requires the combination of an advisor, a faculty member, and a librarian, right? So that's a labor-intensive course for a small number of students. And we want to make sure that the students who take it are the students who need it. All right, so that one of the things, we have a lot of students, some of them go into engineering, some of them go into biology because they know they want to be a doctor, whatever it is, who come here, their minds are made up and they're already kind of assured of their path. Those students who aren't, though, or students who find out that they thought they wanted to be a doctor and then their biology grades don't sort of support that wish, might be people that we encourage to take this course so they can find out if biology is really their thing. What else can you do with that, right? Or what other thing might be your thing? And so I think that I'm not sure that requiring it will put people in the people who are in it are of the mindset that they need help in figuring out what they want to do with their lives. And so I think that when we get them right at that moment when they need help, that's when the course is most successful.
Two comment or two questions, or maybe one is a question statement. Beth, in regards to yours, I understand that it is expensive for this course, but if you look at your preliminary numbers and you're looking at the persistence, every time we move the graduation rate, we improve the amount of money we get out of formula funding. And so, let's look at that very, very closely in terms of going. The other is Randy's question brings to mind that there is one group of people on campus who gets lots of support from us, whom we have the ability to mandate that they in fact take this course. How many athletes have been enrolled in those courses?
That's a great question. Not many. Il, do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know, but I want to say 8 is the number that sticks in my head. And we do have about 20% of the population are students that are participating in metropolitan colleges as well. So we know that that's a popular group that this course resonates with.
I thought I saw Vince on here earlier. Vince?
There I am. Sorry, Raymond. Yeah, I don't know the number, but happy to get the number and get a better understanding of it.
You know, more so in getting a number is that this may be something that we can look at in terms of maybe even athletics offering the course itself to its athletes in terms of, you know, if you look at the persistence levels and you look at it and it improves graduation rates, it can be very helpful. So, you know, the beauty of when this was being discussed in its inception was the ability for it to be impactful across all of the university, and everything that I've heard and said points to those opportunities. And I don't mean to be picking on athletics alone, but it's a captive group.
But can I also say that athletics already has a model in place that helps their students succeed at a higher rate than the rest of our student body? And so one of the things when I first came in here, we looked at was why are athletes actually graduating at a higher rate than our non-athletes? And part of it is the support that they get. Right. And so this is that kind of intentional team effort of support that really helps students. And we're trying to build that in other ways too. We have these mid-semester progress reports that faculty tell advisors or tell students and advisors how their students are doing, and advisors reach out and encourage reaching out to the faculty. So it's this sort of attempt to get advisors and faculty on the same page with helping students succeed. And that, I think, I'm not going to say it came directly from this, but what we learned there helped us influence that movement to connect advisors, students, and faculty together.
And that's very good. I guess you know, it goes back to one of the preliminary questions is that every part of the university ought to learn from the other in terms of what works and how do we make it get better. So you've learned something from athletics. The question is, have they learned anything from what we're doing now? So we need to just continue those types of collaboration to make certain that things take place. David?
Maybe this is a question more for Beth, but can we tie the enrollment in these courses to the alert systems, especially for the very large, and I'm going to use the term weed out, it's a horrible term, but these courses, you know, biology, chemistry, whatever, that are very large and are the obstacles to maybe go pre-med. Can you tie that together, that the alerts go and get those students funneled towards these programs?
Well, I think it works sort of like that. Now, because advisors who get alerts on students in some of those programs talk to those students, and when they say, you know, maybe it's not for me, maybe I don't want to be a physician, then they say, well, you should take this course, right? So I think it does work that way. I don't think it's tied neatly in that way. Would you agree, Patty, that it's more about getting students to the point where they're ready to say, I need to think of something else?
Yes, we do have students who are not ready. They fit the profile of benefiting from this seminar perfectly, and they're not ready to take it. Some students are what I would call kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out. The advisor has recommended. In fact, we have student quotes saying, I was skeptical, right? But wow, this was amazing, right? And then we have the students who are really eager to take it. And so not all students who fit the profile, but there could be other opportunities that we have to help facilitate the process for students realizing they need to take this seminar. And it's been a conversation, and we welcome these thoughts and ideas about it, because it's a tough nut to crack. The other thing I want to add is we do have students who sometimes say, in fact, this past fall, I think of 2 student comments. One said this should be required for all first-year students, and another student who said this should be required for second-year students. So the students who take it get it, and they see the power. So we also ask students who've taken it to help spread the word with their peers. But it continues to be a challenge.
I think the solution herein lies where my pastor has always told me moderation. It's not for every student, obviously, but again, I think purposeful selection, because Beth, although I understand that when people are ready, they're ready, some of our students will not ever know they're ready. And until they get into the course, we might need to urge them along, like you were saying, where there were parents. I think somebody did report that parents had actually suggested or pushed their child, which is probably the case. They're paying the bills and they want their child to kind of figure out what, avenue. Yeah. And again, I'll sign off with, because they always call me Captain Obvious, with anything we can do to encourage and I hate the word mandate, but I have to use it, mandate participation adds value, and it will add value because you can see it. Your commentary just after they've completed the course are like, why didn't I do this sooner?
Right.
And it's that happens with a lot of people, and they don't know, or typically they just lack confidence. I can only think back to my years in college, and you lack confidence to make a bold move like this, and they won't do it, and then all of a sudden we lose them. So again, great program, great outcomes being done.
Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Any more questions from anyone that's on this? Let me close out by saying thank you to all of you for that presentation. Thank you for that hard work. It's hearing things like this to see what's going on in the university that makes the service we provided worthwhile. And that's the reason why we're here. And it's just great. So again, thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we're really glad you asked for more information. We're always willing to get more.
Absolutely. We'll come back anytime. Thank you.
If I'm around, you'll be back. Okay. This item was for informational purpose only and requires no action. At this point, may I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters pursuant to KRS 61.8101F?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are now in executive session. I ask only the trustees, executive vice presidents, vice president, chief of staff, legal counsel, and assistant secretary remain. For those of you dropping off the call, we will alert you to when we have concluded the closed session, but you should also monitor the live stream for an indication of when we resume the open session. During the executive session, personnel matters were discussed. We shall now take the following action. May I have a motion to approve the president's recommendation regarding promotion and tenure as presented?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstention? The motion carries. May I have a motion to approve the president's recommendation regarding the appointment of Dr. Laurie Stewart Gonzalez as Executive Vice President and University Provost effective April 1, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Any abstention? The motion carries. Having no other business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Raymond. Diane Medley, we are ready to begin finance if you are.
Give me just a moment.
Sure.
Thanks, everyone, for your attendance today at the Finance Committee. Hope everybody can hear me. The first item of business, I'm going to do a roll call of the committee. And this is the Finance Committee of the Board of Trustees. Diane Medley here. Scott Brinkman.
Here.
Raymond Burse.
Here.
Sabrina Collins.
Here.
And David Schultz.
Here.
All right, having determined a quorum present, I would like to call this meeting to order. And the first item of business is the approval of the minutes from the September 24th meeting. Could I have a motion from a committee member to approve the minutes and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition or abstention? The motion carries and the minutes stand approved. Our next item of business is the approval of the liquidation of a quasi-endowment. Jasmine and Dan, would you all brief the committee, please?
Hi, this is Dan. I'll go ahead and do it. Basically, this is a liquidation of a quasi-endowment that's been requested by the donor and the Cancer Center, and the proceeds are designed to support some pilot grants that will hopefully lead to more formal NIH grant submissions. So this is a bit of a way of looking at this. It's a beginning of a research project that will hopefully leverage these foundation funds into a larger and more comprehensive grant submission.
Are there any other issues that we need to be aware of?
No.
If not, let's see. Could I have a motion and a second to approve the liquidation of the Bill and Lindy Street quasi-endowment as presented?
Move the adoption of the recommendation.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? Any opposition? Abstention? If not, the motion carries. Our next item of business is the ratification of a utility tunnel infrastructure repair. As you all have seen in your materials, this item was requested by the CFO and president for off-cycle approval because of the immediacy of the repair. Dan, could you provide us some details on this?
Yes, ma'am. We have a tunnel, a utility tunnel that runs under certain portions of our campus, and that tunnel houses infrastructures related to steam pipes, chilled water pipes, and electrical pipes. And we have certain areas of that tunnel that are weak, And we also have repairs, some infrastructure to that piping that I mentioned a few moments ago. And it's especially critical with the construction of the new residence halls that we're doing, that we need to make sure that the tunnel is sufficient in terms of supporting the weight above it, number one, and also number two is making sure that it's safe for our employees to affect all the repairs to the infrastructure that's housed within a tunnel. Originally, this was planned at about a $1.2 million cost. However, the winning bid was actually significantly less than that. It was about $700,000. And the reason for that is the contractor is the same contractor who's building the residence hall. So their resources were already here, mobilized and on site. So we thought that timeliness was really worked in our favor in terms of them being here and also being able to impact the cost to such a great extent. And it's a one-time cost, and we also have one-time dollars lined up to pay for this.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this project?
Move approval.
Thank you. Could I get a second?
Second.
All right. Any additional discussion? Any opposition or abstention? If not, the motion carries. Okay, our next item of business is the approval of an extension to our university's retirement plan. Dan, would you give us the briefing on this?
Yes, ma'am. When the board approved the current amendment to the plan, the amendment ran through December 31st. And to back up just a little, in order to balance the budget for this year, we had asked, one of the critical pieces of that balancing was to reduce the retirement contributions down to 2.5% on the required contribution and 2.5% on the optional contribution, the employee match. We had that in place to December 31st. We were thinking that we would have a more clearer picture in terms of what the spring looked like, and we would be able to make a decision on the adjustments to those levels. But because of the duration of COVID-19 that's lasted a little longer than we expected, and we're also working on what spring enrollment may look like, we're requesting a 3-month extension to move those percentages, the 2.5 and the 2.5, to keep those in place through the end of March. However, we have a budget planning and monitoring committee that's going to review the financial status after we close the books in December. They will be reviewing that in January rather, and we will make a decision in terms of what to do with those contributions, perhaps before the end of March. We want to retain that flexibility to be able to do that, but this kind of moves that window of decision out a few more months, but at a maximum, but gives us some time to assess the spring.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments about this? It's just a continuing struggle here for all of us to know how this is going to turn out and when a preference of economy will be back. Not sure when that will be. So I think this makes sense. Could I get a motion, a second, to approve this?
Move approval of recommendation.
Thank you. Could I get a second? Thank you. Any additional questions? All right, any abstention or any opposition or abstention?
John Smith has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
That's fine. Hey, I just wanted to thank Dan for coming. I believe he came to Dave's Senate as well as the staff Senate and explained everything and was very transparent to all of our groups. It made a very big difference that somebody in Dan's position was willing to do that. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that Dan had taken the time to do that, and it was very beneficial to our staff.
Thanks. And as I would just reiterate, Dan does do a great job of staying ahead of the communication and anticipating who needs to know what. All right, back on our agenda here, is there any opposition or abstention on this motion? If not, that motion carries. All right, now we're going to get an update from Dan on how we're doing based on budget to date and what the next year's looking like.
Okay.
Dan, we'll turn that over to you.
Thank you. Jake, would you mind driving? And if you could, next page, please. Thank you. So what I'd like to do is compare year-to-date activity through the end of October to from this year to end of October from last year, year-to-date for both time periods. And last year, recall, we ended the year with practically a break-even bottom line. It was about $5.9 million, but for all intents and purposes, it was break-even. So as long as we're kind of hanging with last year, we're in the neighborhood of ending the year in good shape. And when we look at the current year, fiscal 21, the first left-hand column, we've generated about $463 million worth of revenues. That's down by about $25 million compared to the prior year. And you'll see in the right-hand corner, there's a couple of drivers for that decrease. The first of which is athletics, which we've known about. And then athletics also appears as part of the decrease in the other revenues of $9.3 million. Part of that's related to athletics, more athletic gifts than anything else. But we'll look at some of those details here in just a few moments. But from a very high level, big picture standpoint, we're about $25 million less in revenues than last year. But there are some bright spots. Tuition and fees are pacing at a little higher than last year. It's a little deceiving in that last fall's enrollment started well below budget and came back up over the course of the year. And this year we're starting at a little higher level. So that $5.6 million will flatten out to a smaller number when spring and revenues start to be recorded. And also the clinical services and the practice plan revenues are a little ahead. And again, we'll go into some detail. We've got a new report for the board that I think you'll find interesting. On the expense side, we've spent about $372 million, and that's about $38 million less than last year. So one way of looking at it is our revenues were $25 million less than last year, but our expenses were $38 million less than last year. And that translates to an increase over last year by about $14.8 million down in the bottom right-hand corner. So again, all funds combined within the university, all areas, all sectors, we're at about $14.8 million ahead of last year on the bottom line when we exclude capital. And again, the reason I exclude capital is because that's predominantly bricks and mortar. It's very restricted funds. So again, from a very high level standpoint, that's one way of looking at things. One of the reports, a new report that we'd like to introduce to the board, is looking at things kind of the next layer down. And Jake, if you could flip the slide. Okay, we have basically three key areas that feed into the university's activity. The university itself, which is mainly general fund activities, the Research Foundation, which is 2/3 clinical revenues and clinical activities and about 1/3 grant funded activities, and then EULA, the Athletic Association. And what we wanted to show was kind of the next layer down of what's happening within each one of these silos or these areas of funding. And for example, in FY21, if you look at EULA, the last column in 21 and the last column in 20, you'll see that EULA is number one, still positive on the bottom line. Last year, they generated about a $34.5 million surplus year to date. This year, it's about 21, so it's less, but it's still positive. On the Research Foundation, this is where you see the work of the Health Sciences Center really paying off. You know, we did the PEDS integration, which was designed to integrate ourselves with Norton and also move some deficits or decrease some operating deficits related to that department on our books. Last year to date, in the Research Foundation, we had a negative $14 million, and the vast overwhelming majority of that was in the Health Sciences Center. And you'll see that this year it's positive $1 million. So big turnaround at the Health Sciences Center. It's a combination of PEDS, pediatrics, along with some other refinements that they've made in the clinical enterprise and the stability of the revenues related to the Kentucky One assets that were acquired and maintain the revenue streams to the School of Medicine. And finally, on the U of L side, which is mainly general funds and some departmental funds, you'll see that a bottom line of about $54.8 million last year to $68 million, so about a $13 million change from the prior year. So what again, on the combined basis, it's about a $14.8 million change, but you'll see how the individual subsets combine to impact or to affect that change. You'll see that, again, the Health Sciences Center becoming more financially healthier. EULA struggling, which we knew it would, and we've got plans in place to help deal with that. And within the 13 million of the rest of the university, part of that is related to the tuition that's running a little higher than last year, and the other part of that's related to some units that are just underspending their positions compared to last year. Okay, any questions on the revenues in and the expenses out? Okay, the balance sheet is yes.
You in talking about tuition revenue, you said you're up almost maybe over $5 million. And you said spring that's going to go down.
Yeah, the spread's going to go down because what happened was in the fall of last year, our enrollment, think of it was at not an all-time low, but it was pretty low. It was less than budget. This year, we actually were a little higher than budget. So plus we had a fee increase. So when you compare the 2 points in time, there's going to be a larger spread. Then last year, our spring enrollment was actually higher than the fall enrollment. So our revenues picked up, and our spring enrollment for this year is going to be hopefully about the same.
So so for spring, are we projecting level enrollment to last spring, or are we projecting a decline?
At this point, we're projecting a decline, but we're working toward level.
Okay.
That's one of the questions. That's one of the questions that we have to answer before we can do anything with the retirement contributions or the contingencies in the departments.
No, because I was thinking if it's going to be flat, then that $5 million should carry over throughout the fiscal year.
Yes, we're working toward that.
Okay.
Okay. But let's see. There you go. But again, the balance sheet's pretty stable. Our cash position has increased. Some of that is because we've been holding some federal tax payments, which we're allowed to do under the CARES Act. So that's helped boost our cash a little. But we again, from a balance sheet standpoint, we're stable. We've our days cash of hand is up. Last year it was around 60. This year it's probably around 90. So we're the plan that we put in place, all the plans that we put in place are working, and we continue to work those plans each and every day. And just want to make sure that the board also is aware of the fact that we have had budget meetings with each one of our deans, to review their first quarter performance and identify any areas of weakness. And make sure that we don't have any surprises as we start to move into the second half of the year. And finally, our next step, again, is to close the books on December 31st and see how we completed the first 6 months and evaluate the enrollment for the next 6 months. Luckily enough, I think last time I addressed the committee and the board, we had some questions on our state support for the rest of this year, and it looks like we will not have a reduction in our state appropriation this year. So that's one storm cloud that's moved away. That now the big focus is on enrollment and tuition. So. With that in mind, I would leave you with the thought that from a financial standpoint, we're stable. We're sticking to plan, slightly ahead of plan, and we're monitoring it. I think it's not an understatement to say we're monitoring things daily. And there are, again, the more formal financial statements in GAAP and GASB format are included in your packet in case you want to look at some more detail. Oh, Diane?
You muted, Diane.
There you go.
Okay, all right. Does anyone have any questions for Diane about our activity to date? And Dan, as far as the next 6 months, I know you've addressed some of those issues, but globally, how do you predict that's going to be? I know you've talked about tuition, but what about our other areas, like namely athletics? Is that going to show a different picture this next 6 months?
Yeah, athletics again is margin positive, and it'll probably remain. And and it does have cash. Vince does have cash. I think they're in a good position to maintain their cash through probably December, January, maybe into February. But we are working on. They're going to hit a wall in February where they're going to need some help, and we're working on some borrowing arrangements to be able to help them through the year. External borrowing arrangements.
Right.
Yeah, but I think, one thing to note there, Diane, is with athletics, the bulk of the revenue certainly comes through football and men's basketball and the season ticket sales and so forth. Football, looks as though we're on base to play on Saturday, so it should come out accordingly. Basketball, we did not budget really for ticket revenue this year. So I think as we get into these games and move forward, every game we play at home for basketball is certainly a plus. And on the expense side, we're tracking nicely. All our mitigating factors we've put out there to date have been are in good shape. To Dan's point, we've had conversations about how to deal with the shortfall, but the shortfalls and looks to be in, I'll say, if you can say good shape, is in good shape right now. And part of that refinance that we had talked about once before on that debt and maybe some consolidating some other facility debt would also defer out some loan installments we would have in this fiscal year, a few $1 million. So I'll go back to the cash point that Dan made. I think he's correct. I would agree with where we stand today and how we're tracking on our cash. And the thought at this point is we would look to remedy the shortfall and the consolidation of debt in February. We'd bring that back to the Board of Trustees in January.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this or any other topic? All right. Thank you, Dan, for that. There's no action necessary. Okay, having no other business to come before the committee, could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
And a second? Come on. All right. All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Diane. Mary, you may begin whenever you're ready.
I am ready. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining this virtual meeting of the Executive and Compensation Committee of the Board of Trustees. I will now call the roll. Mary Nixon, I'm here. Scott Brinkman.
Here.
Raymond Burse.
Here.
Diane Medley.
Here.
Jim Rogers.
Here.
David Schultz.
Here.
Having determined a quorum present, I'd like to call this meeting to order. The first item of business we have is the approval of the consent agenda that was in your package. Please call out if there are any other items you'd like to discuss further. Hearing none, may I have a motion from a committee member to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify aye.
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 Any opposition? Any abstention? Motion carries. Next, Dr. Burse, you have requested an opportunity to speak about the 2020 Trustees Award winner, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, first, thank you, Mary, for this. At this time, I would like to formally recognize Dr. Catherine Fossil as the 2020 Trustees Award winner. Dr. Fossil is a professor of women's and gender studies and founding director of the Anne Braden Institute for Social Justice Research in the College of Arts and Science. Dr. Fossil exemplifies the kind of collaborative, student-centered educator who creates new opportunities and partnership for the betterment of students across many domains. Her motto is that higher education serves to better our community, to reveal our shared goals, and to transform society through a more engaged citizenry. As the founding director of the Anne Braden Institute, she's been a role model for research and scholarship across racial justice, particularly the responsibility of white people to act against racism. Perhaps one of her most interesting and literally far-reaching collaborations was with her study abroad courses in South Africa, in which Dr. Fossil taught the history of white women's anti-racist activism in the U.S. South and in South Africa. But the most important lesson learned by her students is to shift their perspective to one that is more inclusive. She has spoken out for racial justice, queer rights, and other marginalized groups through her writing and activism, as referenced many times in the letters we received supporting her nomination. And to quote Dr. Fossil in her own words, "I look at every day from beginning to end as both a teaching and a learning opportunity, and as well as far beyond the classroom. I also possess the unquenchable idealism that we as a people and as a nation can always do better. I communicate that belief as a teacher, in part because it is my way of being in the world. As such, it is the board's distinct honor to name Dr. Catherine Fossil as a 2020 Trustees Award winner." And I think she's with us. Congratulations, Dr. Fossil.
Gosh, thank you so much. I'm so honored and I'm so humbled by this incredible award. And Dr. Burst, just having you read, my statement, it sounded better coming from you than it did from me. So I'm very appreciative and excited and humbled by this award. And I want to say that I'm not retiring. Several people, including Jake Beamer, said, "Oh, you're retiring." Well, I'm in phase retirement, so you all will still have me around a bit longer, just part-time. But I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to be part of an institution like the University of Louisville, where I have been supported in doing this anti-racist support work for a long time now, and I'm very grateful. I'd just like to take a moment to thank a few people. And the first person I would really like to thank is the person that nominated me, and I believe she's here, although I don't see everybody, so I'm not sure. She had another meeting to go to, and that's Professor Nefertiti Burton, who's chair of theater arts, who we were very lucky to welcome back to the university this year after a few years absence, but to do exciting things elsewhere. And she is really one of my heroes. And so it was a real honor when she suggested nominating me for this award, as well as several of the people she got to write for me are my heroes and sheroes. So it's just been incredible. I'm overwhelmed by it. I'm not speechless, but I'm almost speechless. So I'd like to offer two quick thanks to, also just to all of you and to the wider campus and community that's really supported this kind of work. And I'm hoping just the way that the new anti-racist agenda, that we'll be supporting it even more. So thanks to all of you. I want to just say two special thanks in closing. And one, these are kind of legacy thanks. And one is I couldn't receive an award like this and be recognized in this way without mentioning my mentor, one of my mentors, without whom I would never have had these opportunities, without whom I might never have come to the University of Louisville. And that's our former Arts and Sciences Dean, J. Blaine Hudson, who was the co-founder of the Anne Braden Institute and who worked tirelessly for justice for so many decades on this campus and in this community. Great loss to all of us. And we've got to find ways to remember his achievements. And then the other person I just want to mention is Anne Braden, who was really one of the greatest white anti-racists in U.S. history. That's not a huge population, by the way, but she still stands out. Her extraordinary life is what led me to Louisville. It's shaped so much of my career, and it's been a real honor to build her legacy through being able to build this institute named after her, the Anne Braden Institute for Social Justice Research in the College of Arts and Sciences. And I want to just close by thanking you all again and by saying, I just really hope that her legacy will continue to live on at the University of Louisville and beyond for a long time to come. This is an exciting moment we're in, and I again, she is someone without whom I would never have come to Louisville. So thank you again.
Well, again, we're privileged to have the opportunity to recognize you and for the contribution that you make to the university. Mary.
Yes, I'd like to invite everybody to unmute your microphones and have a round of applause for Dr. Fossil. Dr. Fossil, congratulations. I'm thrilled to see you recognized for all the efforts that you've done and your leadership in this area. And I'm glad you're not going to be leaving us anytime soon. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks again to Nefertiti. I see your beautiful face here now. To all of you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next is the report of the chair. So I have a few end of the year reminders. Our virtual commencement for the class of 2020 is Saturday, December 12th. That's this coming Saturday at 4 p.m. So I'd like to offer congratulations on behalf of all the trustees to our graduating Cardinals, especially considering this unprecedented year. Anybody that wants more details can visit louisville.edu/commencement for more details. Also want to remind everybody, you've gotten several reminders, I think, from Jake, and thank Randy for his generous offer of cookies for the trustees. The Cookies and Cocoa virtual event with Neely and U of L alumni is December 17th. I'm sure it's going to be fun and festive, and I encourage everyone to attend. You can register at uoflalumni.org. You should have gotten an email. We have partnered with Cookies by Penny to bring you exclusive Cardinal-inspired cookies with 20% of the proceeds going to our Student Emergency Fund. So that is great. And I will apologize in advance to all the trustees for the holiday video that I submitted on behalf of the trustees that will be included in this event. So you should tune in just to see it. No, on second thought, don't. And now what I'd like to do is take this opportunity to recognize Trustee Sandra Frazier, who has shared with us recently her decision to not be reappointed to the board at the conclusion of her term, which is on January 13th, 2021. Fortunately for all of us, she will remain engaged as a non-trustee member on several key committees, so we will continue to see her and benefit from her wisdom. But this is the last formal meeting she will be at, since our next meeting is after her term expires. So I want to take a minute and thank and honor Sandra. And this is going to take a minute. She has done a lot since she joined this board. She was initially appointed by Governor Bevard in 2016. She served as chair of the Human Resources Committee from 2017 to 2020 when she handed the baton to Randy Bufford. The Ad Hoc Tenure and Nepotism Policy Committee 2017 to present. She served as a member of the U of L Research Foundation Board of Directors from 2016 to now, trustee representative on the U of L Foundation Board of Directors from 2018 till now, the Academic and Student Affairs Committee 2017 to now, ad hoc presiding onboarding committee 2017 and 18, the ad hoc special litigation committee, which she will continue to serve on in an at-large capacity, as well as the ad hoc Presidential Compensation Review Committee, which she will continue to serve on. She has successfully helped navigate the university through 3 university presidents, Ramsey, Pinto, and Postal, and the search that resulted in our hiring of Neely. She was also a key supporter of the Kentucky One Health acquisition. She's supported us through our NCAA troubles and the turnaround of the U of L athletics department, including the hire of AD Vince Tyra, and of course, our most recent challenge, the U of L COVID-19 pandemic strategy. She was a key member of David Grissom's team, and I know he was incredibly grateful for her service, and she's been an incredible asset to this team and someone you can always count on for her deep knowledge of higher education. Sandra always does her homework. And one of the things I most value about Sandra, and she and I have in common, is that she has opinion and she always shoots straight with you. You always know where she stands. I know I can speak on behalf of all our current trustees, Neely and her team, as well as former trustees she served, to thank her for being a key driver of leading the university to where it is today. And I know we can count on her to give us advice going forward. A deep thank you, Sandra, and I would offer you the opportunity to share a few words if you'd like.
Sure. Thank you, Mary, and thank you for those kind words. And I told Mary yesterday that the hardest part, or actually the easiest part in all of this, in my decision, was actually writing the letter to the governor, explaining not to be reappointed. And the reality is that it hit me over the weekend that there are so many of you all who I've spent really the last 4.5 years. And for that first group of trustees, we were almost locked at the hip. And I'm looking right now at Raymond Burse, because Raymond and I were always strategically seated next to each other and would hit each other at various times in the meeting, or just mumble things to each other. And we even got caught on TV at one point in time during a very sort of stoic moment. So at any rate, it is a very difficult decision. And for those of you who know me and know my family, we have a long history with U of L that goes back to the 1920s, when my grandfather graduated from the medical school and went on to be an associate professor. And my father and uncle were both graduates. My mother is very involved in the school. My brother was a big supporter of U of L athletics. And then my grandmother as well was a huge supporter, and Amelia Place is named in her honor. So I am thrilled that I have had this window to be a part of their shared legacy at the university. And rest assured, I am not going away. And for those of you all who I get to work with on other community projects, I will still be around. And there are so many of you all who I worked with on projects before this in the community. And so I promise, as I told one person, this is more of a pause than anything else, but I am just grateful to have been along on this ride with all of you all. So thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Anybody else have any comments they want to make?
Sandra, just know that we're going to miss you, and we have all enjoyed working with you. It has been a plum-pleasing pleasure to have you and to be able to get your guidance, your advice, and to work with you in terms of things we've done. You know, we've done a lot of heavy lifting over the past few years, but we were able to accomplish because we had you in the boat rowing with us. So thank you for your service, and I'll be looking for you.
Terrific, Raymond. I'm going to stop by and see you on the way to my mom's. Raymond is my mother's neighbor, for everyone who just, so I'll harass him that way.
All right. Well, I'm fortunate to be on 2 of the committees Sandra's going to help continue to support, and I'm on 2 other boards with her, so I know I'll get to see her, but her service as part of this group will be sorely missed, and we just look forward to seeing you and the ongoing support that you and your family, I know, will have for the University of Louisville.
Terrific. Thank you. And thanks again to everyone.
I also, you know, as we close out this semester, want to just take a moment and recognize Beth and Dan, as well as all of Neely's team, on how nimble, brave, and tenacious they've been in navigating us through what's been a once-in-a-lifetime challenge that there was no precedent for. I was on a CPE meeting call yesterday, interacting with other trustees from around the state, and I just want to relay, as we all compared notes on how we've navigated the last 9 to 10 months, how proud I am to be associated with this university. We had a good story to share. So thank you. And now, may I have a motion for us to recess to an executive session to discuss potential litigation and personnel matters pursuant to KRS 61.8101CF?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All of those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition or abstention? Motion carries. We are now going into executive session. I would ask only that the trustees, EVP, President's Athletic Director, Deputy Athletic Director, Vice Presidents, Chief of Staff, Legal Counsel, and Assistant Secretary remain. We'll alert you when we have concluded the closed session, but please keep an eye on the live stream for when we resume. Dan, we'll allow a moment for the staff to clear the virtual room. Thank you. In executive session, the board discussed a potential litigation and personnel matter. No action is necessary. There being no other business to come before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned. Hope to see you all at the commencement and cookie event. Have a safe and happy holiday, everyone. Meeting is adjourned.